Am I the a-hole for kicking out my boyfriend's 19-year-old daughter? My boyfriend of 3 years moved into my home 3 weeks ago after his lease went up, and he was unable to renew with the price hike they expected. His rent was $1,600 for a 2-bedroom, and upon signing a new lease, they said it was now $2,400. I have a 3-bedroom home and one son, 11. Both his room and my room have an attached bathroom. The guest room does not. We have lived here for 5 years, and I bought it last year. My boyfriend has a 19-year-old daughter named Jess who visits him on the weekends and lives at home with her mother. Literally never had any issues with her, up until my boyfriend moved in. When he moved in, Jess started becoming this witchy snob, who had demand after demand that she fully expected me to meet. Like, she wanted me to kick my son out of his room so she could have the room with an attached bathroom, stating that a boy didn't need a bathroom as much as a girl did. When I said, absolutely not, she got extremely rude and condescending whenever she was in my home. She also tried parenting my son on more than one occasion, telling him what he can and cannot watch on the TV, what he can and cannot snack on, etc. There have been times when he has tried talking to us, and Jess will butt in and say something about how kids are so freaking annoying. If I speak up to her, she says, "I don't believe I was talking to you," or roll her eyes at me. Bold for someone who does not pay any rent or food costs to be staying in my home. I told her father last week that either he gets a handle on his adult kid or she was getting booted to the curb. He immediately starts telling me I need to give her time because this is an adjustment for her, and that apparently she is having a hard time at her mom's house due to them arguing all the time. I told him that wasn't my problem, and that in my house, me and my son were not going to be treated like crap because she can't control her emotions and wants to take her resentment out on us. He said he would talk with her. His talk did nothing at all. In fact, she confronted me about it and said, "I don't know what game you're playing here, but respect is earned, not given, and I will not be granting you respect until you prove to me you deserve it." She then walks to the living room where my son was watching TV and takes the remote from him and tells him to move. At this point, I go in and immediately tell her to get out of my house. She tells me she isn't going anywhere because her dad lives here, so I end up calling her uncle, who is a police officer, and have her escorted from my house after she collected all her belongings. My boyfriend says I crossed a line, so I told him he can leave too. He currently isn't speaking to me, locked away in my bedroom. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. My boyfriend says I crossed a line, so I told him he can leave too. He currently isn't speaking to me, locked away in my bedroom. Well, I guess you see who Jess inherited her odious attitude from. Not the a-hole, hold firm. Edited to add, boyfriend has lived there 3 weeks. Check local laws to make sure he hasn't achieved tenant status, just in case you have to put a boot up his butt to put him out the door. It's in his best interest for him to leave upon being asked, because if he hangs around to be evicted, things will get even worse. He will not be able to get his own place with an eviction on his record. It's time to call Uncle Cop again. Not the a-hole. The daughter needs help regulating, and who knows what else. Not even getting along with her mother. The boyfriend needs to wake up about his role as a dad and boyfriend. You need to get them both out and evaluate if there's a relationship to salvage with a boyfriend. Not the a-hole. I don't know what game you're playing here, but respect is earned, not given. And I will not be granting you respect until you prove to me you deserve it. That goes both ways, little girl. Lol. I know that 19 is technically an adult, but she's acting like a spoiled little child. OP, I think you handled this just fine. You took it up with a boyfriend first and asked him to fix it. Obviously, he didn't. So you followed through with the consequences you said there would be. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my brother's gender reveal party? Back in March, I had my gender reveal party at a hall. My husband and I paid for catering, decorations, desserts, centerpieces, and candy for candy buffet. The only thing we didn't do was the signs, which one of my brothers took care of as he is good with woodworking. My eldest brother has 2 children, 12 and 13, from his previous relationship, then got married and now has 2 more little ones, under 10. I have never met his new wife. They just got eloped in March and none of my family has met her. They are now 18 weeks pregnant and will find out about the baby's gender in a few weeks. I was talking to my dear husband and we decided to give them $800. My elder brother asked if we could throw him and his wife a gender reveal party instead at the same hall we did ours at. I said it was a little more than $800, considering the hall rental deposit, desserts, candy buffet, catering, baby shower favors, centerpiece flowers. I do have most of the stuff saved, centerpiece jars, tablecloths, candy buffet jars, and some games from the party. But he even wants a backdrop which my friend did for me for free. She would charge him $150 for this since he has family. He said he really wants this, and if everyone paid for it, we can make it happen. I suggested a smaller venue or even a luxury picnic. I have the decorations for that, and would be more than happy to set aside a portion of what we were going to give him from the $800 for the catering. He was taken aback, as he thought we were going to give him the $800 on top of the party. He said, "Stop being cheap. You guys have the money, and you have never done anything nice for me and my kids." This is true. I was going to university when he had his children, so I was always broke. But I'm not working at the moment. I'm on maternity leave, so checks are small, and the money is coming from my husband, who is not really close to my eldest brother. He called me a cheap a-hole and said I have money saved up, so stop holding back. Now, I don't want to give him anything, and my other brothers don't want to give him anything either. Am I the a-hole if I don't give him anything at all now for his crummy attitude? Edit added. I forgot to mention this is both a gender reveal / baby shower. Not the a-hole, and he can take his entitled, ungrateful butt out here. I wouldn't give him anything. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I know he is in a tight spot in regards to funds, which is why we were going to give him $800 for whatever he needed for his baby. I really don't mind doing a small luxury picnic for him, but didn't expect such a terrible attitude towards everything. My mom even suggested having a potluck so that we didn't have to spend any money on food, and he said that would look tacky. He wanted something really nice for him and his wife. I do have the funds, but I'm being careful as I'm on maternity leave and don't want to spend a lot at the moment. Get him condoms. He needs to stop having that many children and baby mamas if he's in such a bad spot. Regain his financial stability before having more kids. Lol, one of my brothers made that comment. A basket full of rubbers instead of baby clothes and diapers. What? Not the a-hole. You don't owe your brother an expensive gender reveal party. If my brother pulled any of that, I'd say, "Oh, actually, my financial planner says it's best to set up a 529 for a kid. We'll do that once the baby's here, and make sure none of the money is accessible to someone with such terrible priorities in life." This is a beautiful idea, to open up a savings account. I'm assuming that's what a 529 is. Although then, knowing my brother will want an account for his other children, including the 2 that no one has even met yet. I just can't win. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for taking a joke too far and making my mom faint?" I, 18 female, hate practical jokes because my parents love them. It was my 18th birthday last week, and it was the first time in 3 years that I was able to have friends and family over for my birthday party. My parents love practical jokes. You name it, they have done it to me or my older sisters. At each of my sister's 18th birthday parties, they pushed the birthday girl's head into the cake. I think this is stupid and a waste of cake. So, I talked to my friend Kyra, who is into cosplay and makeup. She is amazing, but she said not to post her Insta, and we came up with a plan. When my family was planning my party, I asked for them to please not push my face into the cake, and my parents agreed. So on the day of my party, I was ready. When my parents inevitably pushed my face into the cake, I stood up and screamed bloody murder and squeezed the fake blood pack in my hand that I was holding up to my eye with a candle stub between my fingers. It was awesome. Until my mom fainted and hit the ground hard. Everyone was looking at me and no one caught her. She is bruised up and her and my dad are angry with me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your parents reaped what they sowed. You asked them to refrain, and they agreed not to do it, all of you knowing full well they'd do it anyway. You responded with a practical joke of your own. In fairness, it was a considerable escalation from getting cake on your face though. But ultimately, their terror and ensuing injuries could have been completely avoided had they merely kept their word. I'd argue that while it was a considerable escalation, it still wasn't uncalled for. It's a genuine concern, and better the parents learn not to do it from a practical joke than frantically driving a kid to the hospital. They were also asked not to do it, so yeah, that too. Yes, it may have been a practical joke, but it was also an unforgettable object lesson. Parents ought to be grateful, but that would mean admitting they're the a-holes. Or at the very bare minimum, if you're going to do a jerk thing like this, at least make sure it's safe. Why would you push someone's face who is not prepared into something with solid objects that are pointy? Why? Because idiots are idiots. I recently saw a video of someone trying to shove a guy's face into his birthday cake before he even blew out the candles. There were at least a dozen candles on a cake, probably more like 20. Dude tried to shove his face into a plate of fire. Fortunately, birthday boy resisted the push by locking his arms, and the entire glass table shattered instead. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going to my stepdaughter's birthday party instead of my son's graduation party? I, 46 male, have 2 sons, 20 Andy and 18 Sam, from my previous marriage. I got divorced from their mother about 7 years ago and have been in my stepdaughter, now 11, Emma's life for 6 years. I love her to death, and I see her as my own kid. Sam graduated back in June and was having a graduation party about a month later. But his party happened to be the same day as Emma's birthday party. She was really excited about her birthday and told me she wanted me to stay for her party. I said I'd try and call my son about it. The day before their parties, I told Sam I would try and stop by, but he kept insisting I come for the full thing. I told him I'd try, but Emma's birthday party is on the same day, and my wife and I have been planning it for over a month now. He just said okay and hung up the phone. Fast forward to the day of both parties. My wife said I should go to Sam's party. I was planning on doing so, but Emma told me she really wanted me to stay. I didn't want her to be sad at our party, so I agreed and told them I would just leave later. Emma's party was from 4 to 6 and Sam's from 4:30 to 7:30, so I was thinking I had plenty of time. I live over an hour away from my son, so I was planning to leave early. Anyway, I was helping my wife with a lot of stuff, taking care of the kids and other things. By then, it's already 6 p.m. and I feel bad. I have so many things to help my wife with for cleaning up, and since I live over an hour away, I know I can't make it. I did go to his graduation, so I assumed just going the day after to see him would be fine. Boy, was I wrong. I call him after that, and he practically goes insane, telling me he's extremely angry, saying I love Emma more than my biological kid and that I always forget about him. He then tells me he doesn't want me to come the next day and doesn't want me to talk to him. I haven't missed a lot of his events, so I feel like he's overreacting. I didn't go to his 18th birthday party because of a big meeting I had, and I get why he was mad about that. But this seems like an overreaction. I apologized to him, but he didn't accept it. My ex-wife and wife said I should have gone and that I was being an idiot. My oldest son says I always choose Emma over him, which is not true, and that I was being a horrible father. I do feel bad, but I lost track of time. He won't talk to me, and neither will my oldest son. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. My oldest son says I always choose Emma over him, which is not true. I don't know, my guy. In this case, you absolutely did choose Emma over him. It doesn't help that you say at least twice that he's overreacting, trying to negate his feelings on the issue. Also, why couldn't they push his stepdaughter's party forwards? She's 11. It's perfectly reasonable to do a 9 to 1 p.m. party or a 12 to 3. He's an hour from his son, so he could leave at 3 and get there by 4. There are 100 things he could have done, but he chose to screw his son over. Why couldn't they push stepdaughter's party forwards? This is what I don't get too. Like, OP even says how he and his wife have been planning this party, so there's no reason they couldn't adjust the time frame to make it work for both kids. OP, you're the a-hole. Not only that, but he knew about the double booking well in advance. Told Emma he'd talked to his son about it and then didn't until the night before both parties. I literally snorted at the flash forward after that. He made it into his 40s, with 2 adult children and on his second wife, while still thinking 12 hours is an appropriate amount of time to juggle this sort of scheduling? You're the a-hole, OP, and your weaponized incompetence is juvenile. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding? I, 28 female, come from a big extended family. Including me and my sister, 23 female, there are 24 female cousins and 17 male cousins. Half of the cousins are already married. When the first one ever asked me to be a bridesmaid, I declined. When I attend a wedding, I want to have fun, eat food and dance. In exchange, I will get you a gift. I do not want to spend my energy, time and money on your big day. And when I get married, I will not have a bridal party, nor will I expect a bachelorette party. Well, all of the cousins understood. There were no hard feelings. And to be honest, with that many cousins, it wasn't even an issue. Now, my younger sister is getting married. She asked me to be a bridesmaid and I declined. And I did it very gently. I told her sorry, but with working full-time, being in the final stages of preparing my thesis and teaching some summer classes, that I would not make a good bridesmaid. Also, my sister is a total bridezilla. The dresses she's looking at for her party are $450. She expects a weekend bachelorette in Vegas with all the bells and whistles, and wants everyone to attend dance classes to learn this elaborate dance to surprise her with. I do not have the energy for all that nonsense. Now, she said I am not invited to her wedding. If I am not willing to put forth the effort to make her day perfect, then I do not deserve to be there. Honestly, I don't care. But my mom and some aunts are calling me an a-hole. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If I'm not willing to put forth the effort to make her day perfect, then I do not deserve to be there. You don't deserve to be there? Jesus, how full of herself can she be? After a comment like that, I wouldn't go to that wedding if she paid me. As if her wedding is the event of the year. As if Opie has probably already been to 20 weddings, where she can actually enjoy herself thanks to her cousins. But yeah, her sister's wedding is somehow going to be way better than those. Can you imagine how many actual weddings there are a year in that family? Not stay home. Just seeing how she reacted to your refusal, you know you made the right choice. Save yourself from all the rest of her BS. It might be a very small party if she keeps behaving like this. I think the mom and the aunts may have spoiled this younger sister. Now they can be her bridesmaids and take her to Vegas. Not stay home. Wedding parties have gotten ridiculous these days. We've gone from a bridal shower to a shower and a bachelorette party to a bachelorette weekend at an expensive destination. Not to mention the wedding day with a dress, shoes, hair, and makeup. If you know that it's more effort than you're willing to put forth, then you'd be an a-hole if you agreed to be in the wedding party. Am I the a-hole for outing my brother to his in-laws and kids? My parents live with me because I bought their house when they were going to lose it. They were going to lose it because of all the money they spent keeping my brother out of jail and keeping him in rehab. My brother is clean and sober now, married, with kids, religious, with a father-in-law that gave him a great job. He has never paid my parents back 1 cent. I live in a basement suite with my girlfriend and my dog. I make good money, and my parents deserve to have a good life. They did what they thought was best. My brother had us all over to his house for a barbecue. It was a good meal, and his kids are all right for being his offspring. He then proceeded to mock me for still living at home, smoking weed and playing video games while living in sin. I told him to shut up and leave me out of whatever was going on. He said that he just knew I could be doing so much better if I applied myself and looked for guidance. I thanked him for the meal and my girlfriend and I went to leave. He yelled that he was just telling me what I needed to hear to motivate me. I got upset, so I said I was motivated. I said that I liked to smoke and to drink, but that I paid for it myself with money I earned from a job. I never stole from our parents to pay for drugs. I said that I lived on the basement of a house I own because I couldn't afford 2 houses, one for me and one for our parents. And that since they went into that to pay for his lawyers and rehab, I was subsidizing his life. I said that my college fund went up to his nose. I may be bitter. We left. I guess his wife, who knew everything, had never told her parents. My parents understand why I blew my top, but they think I should have kept it in until it was only family there. Now for the top comments. I think it was nice of you to refresh your brother's memory, since he basically insisted on you doing so. His past would have stayed there if he hadn't decided to call you out for taking care of the mess he made. Seriously, what did he possibly expect to gain by needling you? Not the a-hole. And sometimes you do have to react in the moment. Between the anger and the resentment, you know if you don't react, the person will do it again. How sad Opie's brother has to talk him down in order to make himself feel like a man. And what BS had he fed his in-laws feel a need to degrade his sibling like this? It is not like Opie failed to try biting his tongue and leaving. He did try that. Bro persisted and demanded a response. Most of these situations absolutely need to be handled in a moment. If it's okay for Opie's brother to berate him in public, it's perfectly fine for him to respond in kind. Shame on the parents for still taking the brother's side after everything Opie has done for them. Your brother has rewritten history in his head so that he's the better child. It allows him to hold himself up higher than everyone else, ignoring everything that you and your parents did, especially everything that you gave up. Honestly, the fact that you did such an amazing thing for your parents after they essentially forfeited your future for him and his drug habit speaks volumes about you. Your parents need to understand that keeping things in is what brought stuff to here. To them, losing their home because they were so focused on fixing your brother and giving him every possible chance that they didn't care what happened. even though he doesn't seem to care how any of that impacted anyone else. Not the a-hole. No greater hypocrite than a reformed addict. Religious reformed addict. That's at least one level up. And then what happened? Not much. My brother is mad at me for talking about his past. My parents understand why I did what I did, but they said I should have walked away. I think I probably should have just left. No, you absolutely do not have to eat this nonsense. You deserve that little reality check. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother his girlfriend and daughter are unlucky to have him? I, 20 female, have a brother, Jake, 31. Jake has a girlfriend, Macy, 28 female, and they have an 8-month-old baby girl together. Since Macy gave birth, she's been living with mom and I. She has a lot of health issues that were amplified by pregnancy and labor, so we've been taking care of her. Jake still lives in their apartment on his own and comes over every so often. He is putting his all into work right now to progress his career. He is already doing quite well from what I can tell, and they are not financially struggling. He owns their apartment and can't afford to give them most things they desire, but he says he isn't where he wants to be with his career yet. Meanwhile, Macy is depressed and struggling physically too. She's on several medications and she barely leaves the house. My mom and I do 90% of the child care because Macy isn't in the state to be doing much, although she tries her best and feels very guilty for how much we've had to do to take care of my niece. My mom and I are happy to help, and Macy is kind of like a sister to me now. We're willing to do anything for her, but seeing her so lonely and unhappy is heartbreaking. My brother came over last night to see his daughter for literally 20 minutes, then he stood up to leave. I followed him out and asked where he always is, and why he isn't here with his wife who is clearly struggling and taking care of his daughter. He said he works hard and is too tired to come all the way over here after work every day, so he just comes when he can. Bear in mind, it's a 30-minute drive from their apartment to my mom's house. I said one day his daughter won't even recognize him, and neither will his wife because he doesn't make the effort to be here. He said it isn't my business, and if I'm unhappy helping them with a baby, then I should just stop, and that no one is forcing me. I said I'm not unhappy taking care of my niece, but it's heartbreaking seeing his girlfriend alone in that state, and him not being there for her or their daughter. I said he comes to see them probably once a week for 20 minutes, and it's not good enough, unless he's the freaking president of this nation and doesn't have any time at all. But he's not. He works a 9 to 5, so it's not like he's busier than the regular person. I said he should have been smarter and not have a child if he was going to put his career over his family, because now he isn't much of a father at all. He said he isn't taking advice on how to be a father from a kid who has no clue anything she's talking about, and that none of this is my business, so I should keep my 2 cents to myself from now on. I said I don't have to be older or a parent to know he's a useless father, and that his wife and daughter are extremely unlucky to have a loser like him. I walked into the house before he could respond. I know I was mean, but I don't really regret it, and I don't think it was unwarranted. But my mom said although I was right, I took it too far and may have pushed my brother away. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your brother is a deadbeat. Who wants to bet that bro will soon or already has a new girl to fool around with? I would bet my house that he has at least one side piece. Not the a-hole. He is quite literally being useless, for the most part, and they do sound unlucky to have him. They are living as if he's a nearly absent baby daddy paying child support. When I got near the end and read that he's only working 9 to 5, my jaw dropped. His girlfriend and your niece are lucky to have you and your mother. It's very thoughtful of you two to be helping so much. I'll be honest, a 30-minute drive twice a day can really put some wear and tear on a vehicle and cost a lot in gas, but to stay for only 20 minutes? And to only visit once a week? That's deadbeat behavior. He needed a reality check. He clearly doesn't want to be around any of you and wants to blame it on his piddly 9 to 5. I read us wondering why he doesn't stay the night once in a while or pick them up to stay at his apartment. His acting single is what he's doing. At first it was because he said he doesn't have the knowledge or the ability to take care of them both on his own. To be honest, we understood that. But we thought when Macy and the baby come to stay with us, he would be coming too, and we'd all do what we could. He stayed at their apartment and put all the work on us, while he lived like he is single and child-free. So as everyone does, you learn. There's only one way this will be fixed, and if you guys stop doing everything for him. But the other thing, is Macy getting some therapy or talk to a doctor? To help her? Yeah, she's getting physical therapy for one of the conditions, and she's on medication for the rest. She has appointments with the doctor every 2 weeks. She's getting better, but very slowly. Next story.
Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that she can't speak for my brother's late wife? My brother met his late wife, Emmer, when they were both 12. I was 14. Emmer and I became really amazing friends, and she and my brother ended up dating by the time they were 14, and they were together until her death just after her 28th birthday. They had 2 boys together, who were 5 and 7 when Emmer died. 2 years after she died, my brother met his current wife, Laura. They dated for 2 years and got married 18 months ago. The boys are now 11 and 13, and they aren't really crazy about Laura. They are respectful, but she wants a more motherly relationship with them, and they are not interested in that with her. My brother was sort of upset about their lack of interest in a closer relationship with Laura, and we were talking about it recently. And I brought up our own complicated relationship with our dad and his second wife. The background there is my brother and I are both adoptees. Our mom was the woman who adopted us at our births with our dad. She died when we were 6 and 8. Our dad pushed for us to call his second wife Mom. His wife pushed for the same. The fact we were adopted was used as a reason why we should be able to accept his wife as our mom. Because we weren't biologically related to our mom, neither of us ever saw her as anything else. And Dad decided we should have no contact with each other if we didn't accept his wife and her kids as our mom and siblings. Emmer knew how bad things were with our dad and his second wife, and she often heard my brother vent about how crappy Dad was for never understanding that him falling in love with someone else, enough for her to be his wife, didn't mean we would feel the same way about the same woman for her to be our new mom. When Emmer knew she was dying, she warned my brother to remember if he found someone and their boys didn't want her to be more than his wife. She also wrote him a letter and touched on it there. He had me read a letter to him after Emmer passed. Talking this all through with my brother helped him to realize he was doing what our dad had done. He said he somewhat understood Dad a little, and that the hope was there, but he never wanted to do to his boys what Dad did to us. He and Laura spoke. Then a couple of days ago, my brother and Laura were at my house and she was trying to tell him that Emmer would have wanted the boys to have a second mom, and it's what all parents want. They would want someone doing that for their kids. My brother told her he knew that wasn't true. She asked if he really believed that, and said he might have picked it up wrong. I told her she couldn't speak for Emmer. I reminded her that I was present when Emmer said it, and I read a letter to my brother. She told me I should be backing her up, and if I love Emmer so much, I would agree that she would want that. My brother told her I knew Emmer. She said that didn't mean I had to accuse her so harshly. She told me I wasn't helping anyone by interfering. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She can be acting like a mother to those boys without forcing them to call her such. There is a huge difference in that. It sounds almost as if she is working on the premise, if they start calling me mom, they will start believing I am one. Instead of, if I act like they are my kids, they might start seeing me as their parent. Also not to forget, even with biological parents, 11 to 13 is the start of teenage years, and it isn't specifically good period during which kids feel very fond of their parents. It is more strenuous and rebellious time even when you are blood related. I think it's even less about them calling her mom specifically. Laura's bothered by the fact they're polite to her but don't need her for anything or ask her for something when they could. They go to my brother mostly, or sometimes me or their other family. They have grandparents and uncles from Emmer's side. She feels like they are not giving her the chance to be much of anything to them, which is possibly very true, but they might never want that. She's not being someone they'd want to go to. Not the a-hole. Why is everyone pushing these kids to feel something they don't? It's awful. Forget your mom. You have a new one. They don't need that. They need love that doesn't need a definition that's only designed to make the adults feel better. Kids first. They just need love without all of this pressure. A lot of people fail to realize that things don't always slot together into a neat little puzzle. They can, and it happens, but not always. Sometimes you just have to make the best out of the pieces you have. When a piece or multiple pieces are missing, the puzzle changes. That's how I see it. The boys might never want new pieces to come in where their mom was. Maybe with time they will feel more strongly about Laura being something more to them, but maybe she's always going to be my brother's wife in their eyes. It really doesn't help anyone to push it. My brother and I are living proof of that. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my purse to a child? I went with my now ex-fiancé Mike to a third birthday party for his niece Sissy. I had a Coach Disney bag my mom gave me for my birthday. His family thinks I'm spoiled because my parents still gift me clothes and makeup. I constantly go out shopping with my 4 sisters and sister-in-law. My mom and dad normally pick up the bill and never expects anything. His family makes constant comments, especially his sister April. So Sissy saw my bag and wanted it for her birthday. I tried to explain it was my birthday gift from my mom. Later on, Sissy didn't like the princess Legos set I got her, and April got mad, saying I have money. It's not true. My parents gift me stuff, and I work in an entry-level job. Funds are tight for me, and my student loan payments are starting up again, so I really don't have extra income. April and then their mom started it on me like I should give Sissy the bag. I was so upset. I took off my engagement ring and handed it to Sissy, saying, "This is the only gift your family will ever receive from me again." I got an Uber and I left. Told my dad what happened while crying, and he picked me up at my apartment. Then told my ex I'm moving out over text. I guess his sister got his phone and texted me all sorts of things about how I can't afford to break the lease, and I told her my dad is going to pay for it if I move back in with him and mom. So now he's getting a half of the apartment and your daughter gets a shiny ring, and she should be thanking me. After that, my dad got movers, and because my parents got me most of the furniture, it's coming with me. My ex thinks I'm being childish and petty for taking what his family did on him. I told him he should have spoken up and stopped his sister and mom from demanding my purse. It's not like this is the first time his family acted like that, but it's the last time. Not the a-hole. Sissy is 3 and may have trouble understanding things, but it is her mom's job to make that explanation in an age-appropriate manner. You probably should have put her purse in your vehicle, or Sissy would have promptly forgot about it. Clearly, April hasn't prized Legos lately. April and her mom were so out of line. One wonders whether they were raised in a backwoods shack, far from normal human social conventions. Your then fiancé should have put an immediate stop to it. If he wasn't going to then, you can be sure he wasn't likely to in the future. Handing your ring to Sissy was a boss move though. I wonder if she'll pitch a fit if it tries to take it back from Sissy. Will April demand that Sissy be allowed to keep the ring? Not the a-hole. So she thinks because her parents have money and like to spend that hard-earned cash on their kids, that it means her kid should be able to demand whatever she wants? And she thinks that makes you the spoilt one? Lol, her kid's an entitled little brat, and she's the same. They had no right to do that. And the fact that your boyfriend stood there and did nothing and then put it on you? Nope, you were right to walk away. With family like that, he'll be lucky if any woman is stupid enough to put up with them. I'll predict he'll be single for a very long time. The kid will become an entitled brat. She's a toddler and she didn't understand the situation. She just wanted a pretty thing. It's the parents' responsibility to explain to a toddler why that's not okay. The toddler is not being an a-hole. She's just being a toddler.
Am I the a-hole for not paying any more towards our daughter's wedding after she cut pieces off her mother's wedding dress for her own? Original post. My wife made her wedding dress with her mother. It's very sentimental to her and she was very proud of it. It was simple but freaking gorgeous. She has always said she would love for our kids to wear her dress at their wedding. We had 3 daughters, 34, 30, 25, and 1 son, 28. My wife made it known that the dress was not to be altered, except to be taken in/let out so it could be kept and reworn. Our youngest daughter didn't wear it. Our daughter-in-law wore it for their reception, and our son held it up against him for some pre-wedding bridal pictures, so he wasn't left out. He totally rocked it. Oldest daughter wore it for her wedding. We've offered some financial contributions to all our children towards either school, a wedding, or a house down payment. Our daughter Olivia has asked for help paying for her wedding. The wedding is in the beginning of August. A few months ago, Olivia asked my wife if she could use the dress for her wedding, and my wife gave her the dress so Olivia could get it fitted with plenty of time. Tuesday, Olivia asked me to go with her to pay some vendors. One of the stops was the tailor shop for a final fitting and paid a seamstress. Olivia was really nervous, and I figured it was just usual pre-wedding jitters and excitement. The dress Olivia came out in was not at all her mother's dress. It was a completely different dress with parts of her mother's gown added to it. She took the straps, the sash, the train, and the embroidered top skirt and had it added to this new dress. I was befuddled for a bit and then asked what the heck this was. Olivia's reasoning was that she was the last of our kids to get married, and there wasn't anyone else to wear it, and she made sure to instruct they keep the original dress to be returned to her. I told her that's not the same. She knows it, and the dress was never hers to do with what she wanted. I asked the seamstress for the rest of my wife's dress, and had Olivia tell my wife in person what she had done. My wife was devastated. I have since canceled the payments I made that day and told her I won't be paying another cent to her wedding. She and her fiancé can figure it out. Our youngest daughter thinks I've gone overboard, knowing Olivia planned her wedding with our help in mind, and without it, she can't finish paying for everything. Olivia's future in-laws also agreed with that. They can't afford to help and suggested I should pay, and then we just go low contact with Olivia. I've told them both that Olivia took something irreplaceable from her mother for her own vanity. I know we originally offered to help with the wedding, but I think Olivia's actions warrant canceling that offer. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. That was hugely disrespectful to your wife. The dress didn't even belong to your daughter. If they can't afford a big wedding without your help, then they can downsize the wedding. Exactly. It doesn't matter that your daughter is the last one to use the dress. It doesn't give her the right to destroy/alter it. She should have discussed it with your wife first, and then abide by whatever decision your wife made. She arbitrarily made a decision to ruin the dress. Not stay home. She might not even have been the last. What if there was a granddaughter that was especially close to her? Or she and Opie wanted to renew their vows and she used the dress? Opie is in no way not an a-hole here. Or God forbid she wanted to be buried in it, and her daughter just figuratively shat all over it. The daughter ruined something her mother cherished because she wanted a better wedding dress. And why the heck didn't she ask? It's because the answer would have been no, and she's damn well aware of that. Don't be an Olivia. Not stay home. She tried the old ask forgiveness not permission for a reason. This is clear by her being really nervous to show you the dress. I'd imagine she also showed you first so she could try to soften the blow to your wife. This was premeditated, which makes her an a-hole. Due to her not respecting you or your wife with her choice, I don't think you're in the wrong for pulling your support from the wedding. Tell her she already has your entire contribution in fabric. Not even an ounce of me thinks this wasn't calculated. The dress may be salvageable, but it won't be the same. It won't be OP's wife's dress and the daughter just doesn't seem to care. She ruined something irreplaceable. She took what she thought was a calculated risk, but man, she's bad at math. Obviously not the a-hole, but the gall of the in-laws. They didn't butt in to be peacemakers for their soon-to-be daughter-in-law. I could appreciate that. No, they just wanted your money and openly admitted by suggesting low contact after. Olivia a-hole, in-laws a-holes, youngest probably just trying to help. You and your wife not the a-holes. Emotionally, it isn't the same, I know. But if you have all the pieces, a good seamstress can probably resemble it to look original. I got the original dress back, but not all of the pieces. Not without having Olivia take her dress apart. Best we could do is give a picture of what the dress used to look like and highlight the missing pieces to be remade. Now for the first update. Thank you everyone for the responses. My wife and I will look at more of them tomorrow and discuss the subject further. Just want to address a misconception. We have not gone low or no contact with Olivia. Her in-law suggested it, and that is insane. My wife's initial reaction to finding out Tuesday was not to go to the wedding. That was said in anger and not a done deal. It would probably depend a lot on Olivia's handling until then as well. Taking her dress she paid for would hurt our relationship with her, just as much as not paying for anything else. Which is why we are discussing our options and skimming comments for things we have not thought of and are doable. Now for the second update. My wife and I are reading as many comments as we can. She appreciates the concern and support. For those saying the dress wouldn't be worn again anyway, she has this to say. It's not about whether or not it would be worn again. If none of my children asked to wear it, I would still keep the dress for me. My mother taught me everything I know about sewing. We spent months picking out fabrics and doing trial and error on practice dresses as we made mine. It was mine. It was my one prized possession that held incredible memories for me. I've thought of having it put in my casket with me because once I'm gone, the person it mattered to is gone. However, I would have worn it again. Our 40th anniversary is in a couple years and I was very much looking forward to recreating our photos. It may seem like I'm choosing my dress over my daughter. I'm not. It is her deceit, indifference, and her blatant lack of remorse that I am hurt most by, and having a hard time with. It is the underhanded ways she thought to address the issue. It is the fact she will not apologize and have a conversation with me, but is only worried about the rest of her wedding items being paid for, and pinning it until after her honeymoon. I did not raise her to be like that. I would have loved to help her make designs for the dress she picked out if she had asked, and she knows this. I have never denied her help in her life, nor has our help come with conditions. Today we'll take my wife's dress to the seamstress that has the Franken dress to see what can be repaired. My wife has said the sash and train are most likely lost as the fabric of the gown was cut and the seams undone properly. Paraphrasing here, not up to sewing lingo. Unfortunately, even if it can be restored or parts of it, Olivia is currently not wanting to give up the dress after the wedding. She wants to keep hers and is imploring her mother to understand since she kept her wedding dress for so long. We don't want to lose our relationship with our daughter, but we both agreed there need to be consequences, and there isn't really any moving forward if Olivia isn't willing to budge on anything. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling off my son's camping trip after he ruined a painting that I drew for my wife? I, male 39, married my wife, female 36, 4 months ago. I have a son named Elijah, age 16. He and my wife have this tension between them that started right after she moved in with us. He complains about how she enters his room all the time and invading his privacy and touching his stuff, but my wife says she's just cleaning it for him. He also complains from being forced to eat what she cooks, but my wife says she's just trying to get him to step away from unhealthy fast food and snacks, and get used to healthy homemade meals. The fighting became constant even before the wedding. Then at the wedding, he complained about being excluded from pictures and food he wanted to have, but my wife said she had nothing to do with it, and that Elijah was looking for something to hold over her head. Now, since we're in summer break and he has plenty of free time, I signed him up for a 2-week camping trip and paid for everything. He was supposed to go next week, but a couple of days ago something happened. It was my wife's birthday. As a gift, I drew a painting for her and gave it to her during dinner. Elijah started laughing for no reason, which made my wife annoyed. She told him he wasn't allowed to watch a movie later that night and sent him to his room. He wasn't happy with us, and he threw a temper tantrum and said he didn't do anything to deserve a punishment. Then in the morning, my wife woke me up yelling, saying the painting I gave her was destroyed with car oil. She kept saying Elijah did it. So I went to his room, and he admitted that he ruined it to get back at her for punishing him the night before. I lost my temper with him, then punished him by canceling his trip and taking the money back. He threw another tantrum, saying he had to do that after she punished him for no reason, and that it wasn't fair since I promised. But I said it was final. He started crying and called his aunt as a way to pressure me into backing out of my decision, but I refused. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Your son has been telling you for years that your wife is overstepping, being intrusive, violating his privacy, and making him feel excluded from the family. And you did not one damn thing to help him. Instead, you took the side of the person who is treating him horribly every single time. You're an absolutely garbage father, and your son is going to dump you out of his life the minute he turns 18. My wife said was repeated several times. Is Opie even talking to his kid, or just listening to his wife? Since he is sleeping with his wife, I can answer that one for you. You're the a-hole. Your son is still a child and your wife is competing with him. First, she has no business parenting him. That's your job, not hers. Second, if he doesn't want her in his private space, that is his right. She has no right to invade it for cleaning or whatever else. Third, are you seriously trying to convince us that the bride had no say in wedding pictures? Fourth, you are a very bad parent for allowing all of this to happen without any reaction. Fifth, you guys need family therapy, and whenever your son accepts your wife or not, that is his business. The photographer asks for a list of photos you want taken with people and then you pick the ones you want. So saying she had nothing to do with it is garbage. Literally did this myself last night for my own upcoming wedding. Can confirm. The couple has full control over who gets their picture taken and when. If he doesn't want your wife going into his room and touching his things, why do you let her? Why didn't you make sure that your son was included in some pictures? Why didn't you intervene when he wasn't allowed to eat some of the food at the wedding? Why are you letting her parent your son when you know there's so much tension between them? Of course, he shouldn't have ruined a painting. Of course, he's an a-hole. But he's also a kid. You and your wife are, supposedly, the adults. It's unreasonable to expect a 16-year-old to de-escalate a situation that the two adults keep escalating. Everyone sucks here, but you in particular. I'm the bio mom, and I never went in my son's room without his knowledge or consent by that age. Laundry day? Just ask him to put the sheets in the laundry so I could wash them. If his clothes didn't make it to the laundry basket in time for washing, I taught him how to do his own. Stepmom needs to stay out of this young man's room. That is the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for suggesting he has absolutely nothing to offer me? 30 female and I've been with my fiancé 29 male for 4 years now. We both came from absolutely nothing. Both grew up in foster care. Both had essentially nothing growing up and lived in poverty. I saw this as an opportunity for growth and breaking the cycle. So I save up and work my way towards a better life. Whereas he immediately spends his money on material things that he didn't have the opportunity to possess as a child/teenager. He is super materialistic and I'm not like that. I like simplicity while he likes extraordinary. With that said, the material items he does currently have hold no value to me whatsoever. It's his enjoyment. Like a bunch of guitars, easily over 40, and recording equipment, and I don't play an instrument/have no use for them. Or he has a bunch of gaming PCs/computers/consoles or just electronics in general, and I'm not a gamer/electronics type of woman. I enjoy my books, paperback, old school style, and have more than I probably should. So, we are completely different people and I love that about us. It does make things exciting, though I simply don't understand his need for all of these things. When we started planning for our wedding roughly 2 months ago, it started getting really fidgety and kind of weird, so I just stopped talking about it. I figured it was him getting anxious about the whole thing because he was always the type who said he didn't want marriage. It's just a piece of paper. He knew I did want marriage, so he proposed. I didn't think he ever would and never pushed the subject. I was super taken aback by it because I never thought that would happen. So anyways, he gets weird. I stopped talking about the planning because I didn't want to push it and scare him off. But a few days later, he says he wants to talk and brings up me signing a prenup. Which that in itself didn't really bother me because, well, to be frank, I have much more than him and it would safeguard me. But then he made a comment, not trying to be a prick I don't think, saying, I don't want to lose all my stuff if we ever divorce. This is what angered me. Because, well, now you're insinuating that I'm that type of woman after everything. And knowing that I am a very simplistic person who has no desire for material things. So I get a little heated, nothing extreme, and say, what exactly do you have to offer me in the event of a divorce? Your guitars that I don't want? Your electronics that I have no use for? I don't want your things. He immediately deadpans me and says, I can't freaking believe you would make out like I have nothing to offer. The truth of the matter, though, is that I have much more to offer financially. I would be the one losing in the end. I have a business. I own my home. I have a hefty bank account. While he has barely $9,000 saved and jumps from job to job. Am I the a-hole for suggesting he has nothing to offer me? So the dude brings the subject up, insinuating you would try to take his stuff, then gets angry when you say he has nothing you want? You are not the a-hole. He absolutely is. And you should consider that a red flag and be on the lookout for more. Those red flags are included in the prenup. She should get the prenup to protect her assets. And at that point where he sees that he gets nothing, he'll probably try and talk her out of it. Prenup, prenup, prenup. Have your attorney in on the making of this document. You need to be well represented because from where I sit, you have the most to lose. And just a guess here, but when he sees your asset list, he will say, oh, prenup? We don't need no prenup, babe. Get the prenup, otherwise you're the a-hole to yourself. You might also consider couples premarital counseling and a sit down with a financial planner to help work out how you and he will handle shared financial responsibilities. Good luck. I think you're looking at this from the wrong angle. If you're the saver in the relationship, he will profit from you in a divorce. Get a prenup to protect yourself from his spending. Opie recognizes this. What Opie doesn't recognize is the fact that her fiancé really doesn't want to get married. That is the largest red flag out there. Yes, he never wanted to get married. He proposed out of nowhere and is now manufacturing a big argument that's well known to be a relationship killer. Sounds like he feels trapped and is gnawing off his own foot now. Opie, you need to rethink being in a relationship with someone who doesn't share the same goals/values as you. I don't mean about different hobbies. But you and your partner have vastly different ideas about money and marriage, and your communication needs work too. You're not the a-hole for getting offended by what he said, but you're taking the low road and you need to pull up, fast. Get premarital counseling. You need to discuss all the issues you're not on the same page with your partner on instead of pretending it all work out. Am I the a-hole for naming my baby after my biological father? My 30 female mom and bio dad were addicted to drugs when she got pregnant. She got sober and my bio dad tried but struggled, but they decided before I was born that it would be best if he weren't around, at least until he cleaned up his act. When I was 6 months old, my mom met the man she'd later marry and would also adopt me. He is really the only father figure I've ever known. They never hid I was adopted, but my adoptive father has treated me the same as my younger siblings. When I was 13, I got into contact with my bio dad. He reached out as I had no way to contact him. He was finally sober. My parents allowed us to develop a relationship. We grew very close, and while I didn't call him dad, I love him very much. Sadly, a year later, he relapsed and overdosed. It devastated me, not just to lose him, but also what we could have had if he had remained sober. I eventually got into therapy to help with everything. Now, I'm married and expecting my first child. My parents have been amazing and supportive. My dad walked me down the aisle at my wedding, and they are so excited to be grandparents. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy, and we've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. He wasn't a bad guy, he was just mentally ill, had PTSD, and struggled a lot in life. He loved me enough to know I deserved better and let my dad adopt me. I had an amazing life because he was selfless and self-aware enough. So, I told my parents and they did not take it well. My dad was quiet and just obviously sad. My mom asked how I could name my child after the man who abandoned me. She said I don't have to name my child after my adoptive father, but she's going to struggle with calling her grandchild by the name of the man who couldn't clean up his act and then traumatized her daughter. I found him when he overdosed. She and my dad left shortly later. Now my mom isn't speaking to me, and my dad said it's ultimately my choice and I'll respect it, but it does hurt. This name does not work as a middle name, and my dad didn't have a middle name. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No a-holes here. You can name your child what you want, but your mom's not an a-hole for being upset by your choice. We should also consider the kid to be here. There are almost infinite names out there. I don't know why you'd name your kid something that will create distance between that kid and their grandparents, or why you'd saddle your child with a legacy of an addict who abandoned their kid and then died early. Meh, selfishness has its limits. You're the a-hole OB. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Unless you're prepared to lose your relationship with your mom and your entire family who you claim to care about, you better rein in your impulsiveness and think about the bigger picture. If your bio dad was just your run-of-the-mill deadbeat, this could be excused, but he caused so much pain and left bad memories to the people around you that I struggle to see how you can think this would be a good idea. And you've only known this guy for a year. The version you saw was only a fraction of what he truly was as a person. I doubt the fantasy version of your bio dad you cooked up in your head even existed. Edit. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy. We've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. Are you sure it was a we decision? Or you could give your baby a totally different name, so he isn't burdened by your bio father's memory. I was looking for this comment. Many reasons that Opie wants to use this name, but one of them she seems to forget is this child will grow up eventually knowing it's named after a drug addict who abandoned his child. Talk about an issue that will need therapy when the kid is older. My cousin named his son after his brother who died of a heroin overdose. My cousin who died was named after our great-grandpa who died young and had a difficult life. Great-grandpa was apparently also named after a grandpa who died young. Needless to say, cousin's son doesn't understand why he was given the name to honor his uncle who died young of an overdose, when everyone with that name also died young, and he assumes he's going to die young too, because that's the legacy he was given. I get wanting to honor your bio dad, but maybe find another way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for allowing daughter to exclude family? My daughter's 5th birthday is coming up and we are having a party with family. My husband and I agreed to let my daughter choose who she wants to invite. She chose to invite everyone in my family and my husband's family, except for my husband's mom and stepfather. A bit of backstory is that my mother-in-law and father-in-law live out of state and have taken absolutely no interest in my daughter's life. They haven't even seen her in 3 years. During the past 3 years, my husband and I have tried to get them to FaceTime my daughter, but to no avail. My mother-in-law recently, as in the last few weeks, started calling her once a week or so, but it took so many attempts to even get to that point. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are both retired, so the lack of effort is certainly not due to a lack of time. They are also financially well off and have taken many trips in the last few years, just not to see us. Well, my mother-in-law and father-in-law invited themselves out here during the days of my daughter's birthday and birthday party, so when they found out my daughter doesn't want them here, they were very offended. My mother-in-law is complaining to the rest of my husband's family about how hurt she is. But I'm of the mindset that she has made no effort with my daughter, so why should my daughter have to include her in her birthday? But my husband is starting to feel guilty, and the rest of his family saying how hurt his mom is. So am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Are you really blaming this on the whims of a 5-year-old? What if she randomly decided that she didn't want anyone from your side of the family there? Why would you even tell them they weren't wanted by your 5-year-old? Why create that tension when you claim that you want them to have a relationship? You want them to be salty at a 5-year-old? To me, it sounds retaliatory. You were all too happy to let them know they were being rejected because you felt rejected. Are we really all cuddling a grown adult who can't be bothered to develop a relationship with a grandchild and then wants a freaking pity party because they're not special enough to be thought of by said grandchild? Lol. I really love Reddit. This makes me think of all those parents who force their kids to hug/kiss family members, even when the kid says no. Trample all over those boundaries early, I guess. Info. I'm pretty suspicious here. Your daughter is 5. I'm skeptical you didn't lead her towards this decision in any way. Did she make a list of people she wanted to invite and didn't mention them? Did you ask and she said no? Yes, I'd also like to know what the daughter says is her reasoning for not inviting them. If a kid says they don't want to be around someone, that should be respected. Does she have other reasons for being uncomfortable besides never seeing this person before? She's 5. 5-year-olds don't need good reason to do something. I assure you, her grandparents have not been sneaking in from out of state to traumatize her behind her parents' backs for years. And no, a 5-year-old's desire to not do something shouldn't be unilaterally respected. There's a reason they're not allowed to make life decisions for themselves. Should a 5-year-old also be allowed to refuse to eat vegetables or take vitamins? What if they don't want a shot? Unlike everybody else, not a-hole. They haven't made any effort, and I believe that 5 is old enough to realize if someone doesn't pay any attention to you. All young children notice if someone ignores them. If she truly said she doesn't want them there, then that's fine. That's her choice, and as long as you didn't coach her, not a-hole. Even if not seeing her in person was due to the pandemic, wouldn't you do anything possible to see your grandchild, like for example, FaceTiming, which she has only started to do recently? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving equal payment to my in-laws versus my parents? It should really state are we the a-holes because this absolutely was a decision my husband and I made together and both felt was fair and generous. I recently won a large sum of money. It's not life-changing, quit your job and never work again type of amount, but it's significantly more money than I've ever had in my account before. My husband and I talked at great lengths about sharing the money, what it would look like, and alternatives such as paying for a family vacation. And we decided to gift each household of our immediate family $20,000 each. So my mother-in-law/father-in-law received $20,000. Both of my sister-in-laws, one married and one single, my brother and his family, my mother and my father and stepmother all received equal amounts regardless of whether they were married or single, kids or no kids. One of my sister-in-laws has mentioned that my mother-in-law is complaining that they should have received $40,000 to make it fair, since my parents are divorced and they each got $20,000. Since I only have one sibling, we thought it worked out nice and evenly since each side of the family is getting $60,000 total between each of the 3 households. My husband is embarrassed and annoyed that his mom isn't being more grateful. And while it wouldn't break us financially to give them the extra, it feels unfair to my parents to get less just because they aren't married anymore. Now for the comments. Is it too late to give her nothing? Not the whole. Tell her to want in one hand and crap in the other, and see which fails faster. Tell her she could keep what she got, or she could get it taken away and not have any. You are clearly not the a-holes. The entitlement of people is truly baffling. Sorry, are you one of my parents? because that phrase wasn't exactly common in our household, but came up from time to time. You have one sibling to give $20,000 to. He has two. As stated, each side of your family, yours and his, received $60,000. Not the a-hole. And your mother-in-law sounds ungrateful. Also, your sister-in-law should have never mentioned she'd said that. It was probably a private mother/daughter convo that wasn't meant to go any further. That's a good point. I never thought maybe it was a private venting that shouldn't have made its way to us. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are notorious for sharing each other's venting to my husband, and then he starts bending over backwards to solve it. But nobody ever tells him anything directly. I always tell him unless the person has said something to him. His mom and sister are both grown women who can express their own feelings instead of having the other run interference. His life is much happier now that he doesn't jump as soon as one tells him the other isn't happy about something. Lol. They're lucky to get anything. I won the lottery, and each member of my family got a $50 Starbucks card. Haha, I'm starting to think that would have been a smarter idea. OP, you need to read a Reddit post about what to do when winning the lotto. It's such a good idea. I sold something I created for big money I was not expecting, and told no one. I followed the advice given on that post, and I'm happy to say I blew all the money on Coke and hoops, and no one asked me for a dime. I would not give them a penny moving forward and limit contact. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving back a bike my cousin gave me for free because he thought it was trash? About a month ago, I got a free bike off my cousin, an old red beach cruiser of unknown make. I needed a bike because my last one was stolen, and I'm too broke to buy a new one. My cousin then told me he had an old beat-up bike in his parents' backyard, and I could have it if I wanted it. When I picked it up, it looked a mess. Covered in mud, rusty chain, nicked paint, dry cracking on the white sidewalls of the tires. There was even moss on it, but I took it anyway and thanked them. I got it home, cleaned it up, touched up the paint with nail polish, lubed the chain with WD-40, put new $7 grips on it, tightened the rear gear, cleaned most of the rust off any chrome, put on an aluminum kickstand that a bike shop tossed out as garbage, and it became my daily rider. The tubes and tires are still good, and I got it back on the road for less than $10. And honestly, I like it. Ride's a little bouncy, but a coaster brake is fun and it's simple and reliable. The problem is my cousin saw me riding it last week, and at first didn't recognize it as the same bike. It was so covered in mud previously that he thought it was rusted over. And now he says that I scammed him and that he wants $60 for the bike, or give it back so he could sell it. I refused and said he didn't want it in the first place, and I like riding it. Now he's calling me a jerk and telling his friends and family I've robbed him. The family are all on my side, including his parents, while his friends think I'm a jerk. But I'm the one who put the work into fixing his bike he gave me free as trash. And I'm the one who actually uses it, unlike my cousin. So I'm here of an unbiased opinion. Am I the a-hole for not giving the bike back or not giving money for it? Edit. Yes, I know WD-40 wasn't a permanent solution for the bike chain, and I will get a proper lube for it later. I only use it for the moment because I already had it on hand, and it loosens rust well, because it's made for that. I needed the chain working right away as I was already using the bike to go to work a day later. WD-40 is a stated penetrating lubricant, among other things. It's just not a steady lubricant because it dries out. The chain is working fine for the moment, and I'll get the right kind of grease/lube soon. Not the a-hole. If he wants the bike back, he should be willing to pay you money for the grips, WD-40, kickstand, and labor. I already had a WD-40, and the kickstand was free. The only things I had money into was the grips and dollar store nail polish. But it was still a day's labor to get it roadworthy again. Call a bike shop and ask what their hourly rate is for repairing a bike. Tell your cousin he can have the bike back, minus the cost of repair material plus the labor you spent on it. I guarantee that it will be more than $60, and probably more than he could sell the bike for. He doesn't get to profit off your labor for free. I know what the local bike shop's hourly rate is $25 an hour, plus the cost of the parts. Obviously not the a-hole. Your cousin is being ridiculous. He gave you a bike that apparently he thought was completely useless, and perhaps not even usable. And now that you fixed it up, he thinks you scammed him? What a joke. His friends are on his side because they are his friends, and because he likely didn't explain the situation fully or correctly to them. Don't worry about what they think. Exactly. The cousin is trying to scam and take advantage of OP. The cousin saw the bike as trash that got taken off of his hands. He didn't have to take the time or the energy required to discard it. Now that OP has taken the time to repair the bike and proven that it still works, the cousin wants to swindle OP to make a quick buck. And like you said, the scammer cousin probably only told his friends half of the story. What was your cousin expecting? That you were going to ride it still covered in moss and dirt? I was expecting the story to turn into the bike being a special edition that was worth a fortune. Wonder what your cousin has told his friends to make them on his side. As far as I can tell, the bike is nothing special, nor is it vintage. Maybe it is worth $60 in its current condition, because some people seem to want a fair amount for used beach cruiser. But it was basically worthless when I got it.